The attic air hung heavy, thick with the scent of decay and forgotten things. It was as if time itself had forgotten this place, leaving it to gather dust and memories. The air was stale, carrying the weight of years gone by, and every breath felt like inhaling the past. A single ray of sunlight pierced the gloom, illuminating motes of dust dancing in its path. These tiny particles seemed to float aimlessly, yet with a purpose, as if they were the spirits of the past, forever trapped in this forgotten space. The light was a stark contrast to the surrounding darkness, a reminder that even in the deepest shadows there is always a glimmer of hope. The silence was absolute, broken only by the creak of the floorboards beneath my feet. Each step echoed through the attic, a reminder of my intrusion into this forgotten world. The floorboards, worn and weathered, seemed to groan under the weight of my presence, as if they were protesting my exploration of their secrets. It was a silence that seemed to listen, to watch, to wait. The shadows in the corners of the attic seemed to shift and move, as if they were alive, hiding secrets that were not meant to be uncovered. The stillness was almost palpable, a living entity that wrapped itself around me, making every hair on my body stand on end. In the center of the attic, shrouded in shadow, sat a steamer trunk. It was an imposing presence, dominating the space with its silent authority. The trunk seemed to be waiting, guarding whatever secrets it held within its depths. It was a relic of a bygone era, a silent witness to the passage of time. Its leather was cracked and faded, the brass lock covered in tarnish. The trunk had clearly seen better days, but it still held an air of mystery and intrigue. The wear and tear only added to its character, telling a story of years of use and neglect. The lock, though tarnished, seemed to hold fast, guarding whatever lay inside with a stubborn determination. The trunk seemed to pulsate with an energy of its own, a dark heart beating in the stillness. It was as if the trunk itself was alive, a living entity that held the power to change everything. The energy was almost tangible, a dark force that seemed to reach out and envelop me, drawing me closer to the secrets it held. I knew with chilling certainty that whatever lay inside held the key to unlocking the horrors that had plagued this house for generations. The trunk was a Pandora's box, waiting to be opened, and I was the one who held the key. The weight of that knowledge was almost too much to bear, but I knew that I had to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. The silence of the attic seemed to press in on me, urging me to take the final step and open the trunk, to face whatever horrors lay within. I knelt before the trunk, my fingers tracing the outline of the tarnished lock. The metal was cold to the touch, its surface marred by years of neglect. Each groove and scratch told a story of time long past, of secrets hidden away. My heart pounded in my chest, a rhythmic reminder of the fear that gripped me. A sense of dread washed over me, cold and suffocating. It was as if the air itself had thickened, pressing down on me with an invisible weight. My breath came in shallow gasps, each one a struggle against the oppressive atmosphere. The room seemed to darken, shadows creeping in from the corners, as if drawn to the malevolent energy emanating from the trunk. With a deep breath I broke the seal, the hinges groaning in protest after decades of silence. The sound echoed in the stillness, a haunting reminder of the passage of time. As the lid slowly lifted, a musty odor wafted out, a mix of decay and forgotten memories. The dim light revealed the contents within, shrouded in an eerie glow. Inside, nestled amongst yellowed lace and aged velvet, lay a doll. She was unlike any doll I had ever seen, her presence both captivating and unsettling. The delicate fabrics that surrounded her seemed to whisper secrets of their own, tales of a bygone era. The doll's dress, though faded, retained an air of elegance, hinting at a time when she was cherished. Her porcelain skin was flawless, her painted eyes staring blankly ahead. Those eyes, though lifeless, seemed to hold a depth that was unnerving. They were windows to a soul that should not exist, a silent witness to untold horrors. The craftsmanship was exquisite, each detail meticulously rendered, yet it was this very perfection that made her so disturbing. A shock of crimson yarn, meant to resemble hair, framed a face frozen in a disturbingly serene smile. The contrast between the vibrant red and the pale porcelain was jarring, adding to the doll's eerie allure. Her smile, though gentle, seemed to mock me, as if she knew something I did not. It was a smile that held secrets, dark and twisted. Her gaze seemed to follow me, holding me captive in her silent scrutiny. No matter where I moved, those eyes tracked my every step, a constant reminder of her presence. It was as if she was alive, her spirit trapped within the porcelain shell. The intensity of her stare was unnerving, a silent accusation that pierced through my very soul. It was then I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that this was no ordinary doll. This was Annabelle. The name echoed in my mind, a harbinger of doom. Stories of her malevolence flooded my thoughts, each one more terrifying than the last. I realized that I was not just looking at a doll but at a vessel of pure evil. The room seemed to close in around me, the walls pressing in as the weight of her presence became unbearable. I knew I had to leave, but her gaze held me hostage, a prisoner to her silent menace. The old asylum records were brittle with age, the ink faded and the edges crumbling. Each page rustled like dry leaves as I turned them, each whisper of paper a testament to the horrors that had unfolded within these walls. The name, scrawled in hurried handwriting, sent a shiver down my spine. Annabelle Higgins. She had been a patient here, admitted as a child after a series of disturbing incidents. The details were scant, obscured by time and deliberate redaction. But the few glimpses I caught painted a horrifying picture. A darkness clung to Annabelle, a malevolent energy that seeped from the pages and wrapped around me like a shroud. The house itself seemed to react to Annabelle's presence. Floorboards groaned under unseen weight, the air grew heavy and oppressive. A low hum vibrated through the walls, like the beating of a monstrous heart. Shadows danced at the edge of my vision, twisting and contorting into grotesque shapes. The temperature plummeted, a bone-chilling cold that seemed to emanate from the doll itself. It felt as though the house was alive, its very structure intertwined with Annabelle's sinister energy, and I foolishly had brought that energy back into the light. A hidden compartment in the trunk yielded a small, leather-bound journal. The pages were filled with a spidery script, the ink a sickly shade of crimson. It was a diary, penned in a language both archaic and disturbing. As I deciphered the words, a wave of nausea washed over me. The diary spoke of a ritual, a dark pact made between a desperate soul and an ancient evil. A sacrifice was involved, a life offered in exchange for something. The details were unclear, shrouded in cryptic verses and disturbing illustrations, but the name that appeared again and again, scrawled with an almost manic intensity, sent chills down my spine. Annabelle. Night fell, blanketing the house in an oppressive darkness. Sleep was impossible, the silence punctuated by the ever-present feeling of being watched. Every creak of the floorboards, every sigh of the wind against the window panes, sent my heart racing. The doll, perched on the edge of the bed, seemed to mock my fear. Her painted eyes glittered in the moonlight, and I could have sworn that her serene smile had widened, revealing a hint of something predatory beneath the porcelain. The air grew thick with a cloying sweetness, like the scent of decay masked by cheap perfume. Driven by a morbid curiosity, I held the doll up to the antique mirror that hung in the hallway. The hallway itself was a relic of the past, filled with shadows and whispers of bygone eras. The mirror, with its ornate frame and slightly tarnished glass, seemed to hold secrets of its own. As I lifted the doll, an eerie silence enveloped the space, as if the house itself was holding its breath. The glass rippled, the reflection distorted and warped. It was as if the mirror was a portal to another realm, a place where reality twisted and turned. The once familiar hallway behind me now looked like a scene from a nightmare, with shadows dancing and shapes shifting in the distorted reflection. For a fleeting moment I saw it, a flicker of movement behind the glass, a pair of crimson eyes gleaming with malice. They seemed to pierce through the very fabric of my soul, sending chills down my spine. The eyes were not just looking at me, they were looking into me, as if searching for something hidden deep within. Then just as quickly, it was gone. The mirror's surface returned to its usual state, but the memory of those eyes lingered. I could still feel their malevolent gaze, as if they had left an imprint on my very being. The air around me felt colder, and the silence was now deafening. The mirror returned to normal, reflecting back only my own terrified face and the seemingly innocuous doll in my hands. My reflection showed wide eyes filled with fear, and my hands trembled as they clutched the doll. The doll's glassy eyes seemed to mock my terror, its painted smile a cruel reminder of the horror I had just witnessed. But I knew deep down that what I had seen was no trick of the light. The experience had left a mark on me, a lingering sense of dread that I couldn't shake off. I stood there, staring at my reflection, trying to make sense of what had just happened. The rational part of my mind wanted to dismiss it as an illusion, but my gut told me otherwise. The evil that clung to Annabelle, the darkness that had seeped into the very foundation of this house, was far more real and far more terrifying than I could have ever imagined. This house, with its creaking floors and whispering walls, was a vessel for something ancient and malevolent. The doll, Annabelle, was not just a toy, it was a conduit for the darkness that lurked in the shadows. And now, I was entangled in its sinister web, unable to escape the truth that stared back at me from the reflection. Panic surged through me, a primal urge to flee this cursed place, but as I turned to leave, my foot caught on the edge of the rug. I stumbled, the doll flying from my grasp. It landed on the floor with a sickening thud, its porcelain face cracking, revealing a glimpse of the darkness that lurked beneath. The air crackled with energy, the temperature plummeting as a wave of pure, unadulterated evil washed over me. The shadows in the hallway twisted and writhed, taking on grotesque shapes that seemed to reach for me with grasping claws. I was trapped, ensnared in the web of my own morbid curiosity. The house groaned, the walls seeming to close in around me. A low, guttural growl echoed through the halls, sending shivers down my spine. Then, from the cracked porcelain of the doll's face, a voice, raspy and filled with ancient malice, whispered, "You are mine now." As the shadows descended, swallowing me whole, I realized the terrifying truth. I hadn't uncovered the secrets of Annabelle, I had inherited them, and the price of that inheritance was my soul.